Well, we got a lot of participants, so that's great. And it is now 1 o'clock. We'll give it a couple more minutes because I know more people will be joining in. So we'll give it just a second. You know, I'll keep you muted for the first few minutes if you want. We will introduce you, so I'll unmute you. So everybody who's on here, if you go up to view, you can do speaker view or gallery view. And I need to go change something in the training room. So Michael, if you want to chat with them for a sec.
Sure. So one of the things before we get in, we really want to hear from you. Go ahead in the chat box and put down, are you still doing open houses? Have you done open houses at all? And what is it that you really want to make sure that you get out of today's class so that we can have this discussion and make sure that you have the tools that you need to be able to succeed at a high level. Go ahead and put that in the chat box for me, please. You actually have two sections. There's one that says Q&A and there's another one that says chat. I want you to use the chat section because that way everybody's going to be able to read your questions. If you only put it in the Q&A section, we can only see them, and oftentimes it's very difficult. We have to move in and out of whatever the presentation is usually. So putting them in the chat box is going to be a really easy way for us to hear that. So to pose the questions again, what is it specifically that you want to make sure that you gain out of this conversation around open houses? And go ahead and give us an understanding. How are you currently doing open houses? Have you done any open houses in the past? That way we can kind of get an idea of where we are as a group.
And I want to know, what are your results from the open houses that you've had? What kind of results are you getting? Thank you, Regina. You do at least 2 a weekend. Well, that's awesome. Kelly says, I've done open houses. I'm still doing them. I'm taking the class for some tips on how to get the most out of open house leads and contracts. Great, Kelly. I'm glad that you are here because those are the things that we are going to be talking about. So Michael, let's go ahead and get started. It is 1:02 and I'm sure we'll have more people joining us. So today is an open house class to help everybody capture more business and write more contracts from that activity of doing open houses. So we're going to identify the steps to take before the open house, during the open house, and then post open house. We've got Regina Tyler in here with the Hustle and Heart team, who will also be sharing some of the techniques that she does. And from my conversation with Gina yesterday, I love that she captures the most business from her follow-up, which I've always said, like, if you're not following up from an open house, you probably shouldn't even be doing one. So the follow-up is key. So I can't wait to hear from Gina on that. Like I said, we're going to help. The goal for today is to help you capture more business from your open house activities. Our objective is to actually identify specific steps for pre-open house, during the open house, and post-open house. Michael, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Michael Reedy. I'm the Director of Productivity for the Keller Williams Chadwick Group in Pinellas. Our locations of the Gulf Beaches, Seminole Market Center, and the Downtown Market Center. We have a wonderful coaching program that's dedicated to getting you into business as quickly as possible. One of those great tools is the open house. We teach on open houses quite often in Ignite 2.0. We have many classes throughout the year that talk about really getting the most out of the process of doing the open houses, and definitely the way that we can use them as marketing tool pieces for the people that are in your world to know the level of work that you do. It also is our connection where most sellers actually don't see all the work that you do. Really, the only time that they see you, quote unquote, working is when you are actually inside of their house. So we're going to talk about how you can utilize those tools to get in front of more people and to convert more business. Rachel, you're up.
All right, so my name is Rachel Tenpenny. I forget that I just recently officially changed it, so let's rename myself here. So I was Rachel Tenpenny Sartain, and now I'm Rachel Sartain Tenpenny, just to make sure I confuse everybody. But I am in the middle of a name change. Tenpenny is my maiden name. I've been the broker with Keller Williams. I helped launch the downtown office. It's been about 12 years ago now. And also helped launch the Treasure Island office, Gulf Beaches office, and the Seminole office. Let's see. Oh, I don't know. I'm a broker. I was an agent. I loved open houses. I got a lot of business out of open houses, but I just wish I would have known these techniques because I would have gotten so much more out of it. You know, my favorite story to tell about open houses is I remember there was an agent that I had met when I was just getting into real estate sales, and I went to her open house, and she literally was sitting on the couch reading a book. So this was like 2003, 2004, and that's how agents had been taught in the past to hold an open house. She was literally sitting on the couch reading a book, just telling people, come on in, take a look around. That same agent ended up joining our office several years later and went to Family Reunion, which is actually a convention that Keller Williams hosts once a year. And it's next week, by the way. It's being done virtually, so if you guys want to sign up for it. But she went to that convention and learned a technique about open houses. And from that technique, when she got back, she hosted 3 open houses in a weekend and wrote 7 offers on those 3 open houses. So what a change from the agent sitting on the couch reading a book to writing 7 offers for 1 open house. So I'm super excited to be able to share these experiences and tips that I've learned over the years, not from actually doing it, but from coaching and training so many realtors who are doing open houses at an extremely high level, and excited to be able to share those with you. We also have a guest on here today, Miss Regina Tyler, who is part of the Hustle and Heart team, who has joined us to talk to us about her open house experiences and what she does. So Gina, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I've been in real estate. This is year 3 as of January. I've been with the Hustle and Heart amazing group for a little over a year now. Best move I ever made. And I will tell you something. I know it kind of sounds funny, but you know, my open houses are like literally one float short of a parade. But that's my main source of lead genning. So I make it, you know, I make it the most I can. Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. And you do 2 open houses every weekend, correct?
Yes, unless I have people in cars, which was my agreement with Heather. Unless I have people in cars, we signed that we have to do at least, you know, 2 a weekend.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we are glad to have you on here because I think I think it's so important. Michael and I teach from the models so often, and I love being able to take it to the street, you know, boots on the ground, the agents that are actually doing it, sharing how they're using the model of, or in this scenario, doing an open house and then tweaking it to match who they are, and sharing also ways that you've captured the most business from these activities. So thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks.
All right, so let's just jump right in. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the pre-open house activities. So Michael, I want to do an open house on Sunday.
Okay.
So if I want to do an open house on Sunday from 1 to 4, do I just need to go out there at 12:30 and put up a sign?
You could, and you'll be house sitting. You won't be really doing an open house. The process for a Sunday open house or Saturday open house really starts about 5 days prior, 6 days prior. We want to be identifying early in the week, right? Today is Tuesday. We would be looking at the MLS. If we have our own listings, then we would be knowing what's going live or what the availability is. If our intention is to hold someone else's open house, we need to reach out to them. So first and foremost is to identify where you want to be holding an open house. One of the greatest tools that you can use is the actual MLS. On your homepage of the MLS, there's a section that says My Listings, and under the My Listings section, you can see my office's active listings. And this is going to show you all of the active listings that the Market Center has at that particular time. From there, you'll actually be able to see the newest properties. You can see based on price point, neighborhood, zip code, who the listing agent is, and then you can contact the agents directly. You might make a couple of phone calls with inventory being the way that it is. You might call someone, let's say that you call me and I had a listing and it just went live, you're asking to do it. It's very well possible that the agent will go, no, you know what, I'm actually planning on doing it the very first weekend. Thank you. If it's still in the market, maybe we can have a conversation about next weekend. So don't be discouraged if you call an agent and they say no. Continue to move through that list, but we want to identify where you want to do the listing. And then what Rachel loves to talk about is, what is your intention for the open house?
Right. And I just want to say real quick, that's one of the benefits of being part of our Keller Williams Realty organization is the large inventory, the large amount of inventory that we do have and the market share that we do have. Over the weekend, I was just scrolling through the MLS because I do it daily to see what is out there and what's available. First 3 listings I saw were like in the Meadowlawn areas where I was looking, and the first 3 were all Keller Williams Realty, Keller Williams Realty, Keller Williams Realty. So when you, because we are 3 offices, St. Pete, Seminole, and Gulf Beaches, go ahead and look at all 3 offices for their listings because everybody is here to help one another. And so there's lots of inventory for you to choose from. You can also, another way that agents find open houses is they will post it in our closed Facebook pages, just saying, hey, I want to do an open house. Who has a listing that I can hold open this weekend? You'll also get a lot of responses from that. But the most important thing when you are preparing to do an open house, that you go in with the intention of knowing the result that you want to create. So we call this the SMART goal. It needs to be specific, measurable. What's the action steps you need to take? What are the results you want to create, and in what time frame? So that is SMART: specific, measurable, action, results, and time. So let's say you're going to do an open house on Sunday. What is your goal for that open house? So Gina, when you do an open house, do you go in with a goal?
Yes. Yes, I do.
What is your goal?
To reach out to the neighbors the day before, to touch base with all the, the next door neighbors and stuff like that. So we'll basically go out there and knock the neighborhood before that. Then as soon as I get into the open house, I try to get there obviously early. And then my goal is to get as many names and numbers at the open house, because that literally is what I do. And that's how my bread and butter is from all those clients are from the open house.
Can I take a coaching moment with you?
Can you what?
Can I have a coaching moment with you?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to challenge you.
Oh, Lord.
Instead of as many numbers as you can, set a specific measurable goal. So instead of as many as you can, set a goal for 10 or 15 or 18. Set a goal for how many contacts you want to add to your database from your open house activity. And I think that's so important because I think that's, 99% of us go into something with that idea of I want to get as much as I possibly can. But is that 2 or is it 20?
No, my goal is to get everybody's information when they walk in. Well, before they walk out the door, I'll have established something for everybody, whether it's an email, a phone number. I've given them my little bags of stuff to go. But yeah, I have to have a contact with them one way or the other.
So on average, how many contacts do you get from each open house?
So depending on the open house and the price point, I mean, that will obviously, drive the difference. So I can probably get anywhere between 10 to 15 people.
Okay.
That I can get their information.
So then I would have a minimum goal every open house of 10 or 20.
So one of the things that's,
go ahead,
one of the things that's important about this is to also understand that when we say how many people you're going to speak with, because of an open house, that doesn't necessarily mean how many people are going to walk through the door.
Right.
So the actual day of the open house is lead receiving, quite frankly, right? Because as we know, we can put out the same amount of signs, we can knock on the same amount of doors, we can spend the same amount of money doing an ad on Facebook, a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. And yet on Saturday, there could be 3 people, and on Sunday, there could be 46 people, and it's the exact same address, and it's the exact same environment. The part that's when we say how many conversations or context do you want in an open house, that is through all of the pre-work and the during work before you hit that number. And that's where some of the things that we're going to talk about in this pre-section of the pre-open house come in. People do circle prospecting, whether it's door knocking or they do it over the phone. And being very intentional around what you're saying during that door knocking is really going to lead to the type of results that you're going to get when you're making those contacts with individuals.
Well, and so I'll tell another little story of an agent that I was working with who knocked 100 doors before her open house, but didn't have anyone show up to our open house. So we go in and we just investigate. So what was the conversation that you had when you knocked on the door? And she said, well, I was just letting them know I was having an open house on Sunday on Sunday 12 to 3. But okay. Did you invite them? Well, yeah, I let them know I was having an open house on Sunday from 12 to 3. See, when we have an intention of the result that we want to create, it changes our language. So when I knock on the door and I say, hey, Mr. Neighbor Michael, I said, I just want to let you know I'm having an open house 2 doors down the street on Sunday from 12 to 3.
Yeah, okay. That's like telling me you changed your underwear today. Thank you. What does that mean for me? What benefit do I get? What value do I get out of that? Thank you for letting me know that you're in the area.
Well, and as a homeowner in the neighborhood, I think that you're coming to tell me that because there might be some cars parked out on Sunday, right? Is that why you're coming to tell me? So our language changes with our intention. So if you said, hey, Miss Gina, neighbor, I wanted to let you know I have an open house just up the street. It's 3 doors down from you. It's going to be this Sunday from 12 to 3. Have you been in that home yet?
Mm-hmm.
You've already been there?
Once.
You've been there once? Well, they've done a lot of updates. Would you like to sneak back in and take a look at it?
Yes, I do.
It's awesome. It's gorgeous. So on Sunday, I'm having an open house. I would love to have you come by and see what they've done with the home. Will you come by?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Okay. So what's the difference in that language?
You invited them. You're asking them for their feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. One's very purposeful as an invitation and one's just kind of a PSA, right? Mm-hmm. So, okay. So Michael, going back to this pre-open house, we've got it scheduled for the weekend. It's 4 or 5 days ahead of time. Now we've got to get into action. So if we're going to create flyers, we need to do that early, like on Tuesday or Wednesday. Another thing, guys, for some of you guys out there that you might not be creative, you might not want the print costs, etc., partner up with one of your lender partners or title company. They have, Van Dyke, Cross Country, all of the companies that we partner with, they have huge marketing divisions. Leverage it. Ask them to help you with the flyer. Ask them to co-brand it. They'll also print it in color for you. And so then you don't have the print costs and you have one available to you for door knocking. So you're marketing them and marketing yourself. So you have the flyer, then you can do your social media marketing. And Michael, do you want to talk to us a little bit about what that looks like?
So one of the things that we see quite often is people will have that flyer created by a lender or whatever, and then they post that exact same image on social media. If you find it boring, they're going to find it boring as well. So be mindful of that, which is the flyer that you're handing out is just a way of giving something to the neighbors so that it gives you a reason to have a conversation. On social media, again, it goes back to what is the purpose. So if I'm on social media, is it because I want my world to see me working? Is it because I want leads about this particular open house? I've got to ask those questions and set SMART goals. So one of the things that we can absolutely do with command, number one, to Rachel's point, if you don't feel like you're that creative, you can absolutely go into the designs section of your command. And there are now thousands of templates that are both uploaded by KWRI as well as other agents throughout the country that are giving you some other templates and things that they've used. So you can go in, you've got really great creative aspects there. And then if you're going to do video, and we've been talking about this, I've been talking about it for 4 years, 2021, if you can't tell by TikTok and everything else, that 80% of the content that we consume is in video format now. So going and putting things on video is one of the biggest things that you can do to allow your world to know what you're doing. If it's my personal sphere and I just want them to see me working, that I'm going to show them the entire video. If I'm looking to get leads, I'm not going to share the entire video of the open house. Instead, I'm going to create a landing page on command that's going to house the entire video. And then I'm going to make something that is called a sneak peek or a teaser video, 5 or 6 seconds, letting them know, do you know someone who would love to buy a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house for under $300,000 in St. Pete? Click the link below to find out more. What we need to do is, this is called a currency exchange. In order for them to get the information that they want, which is to watch the full video tour, they have to give you something that you want, which is their contact information. So social media is one of the great ways that you can be targeting individuals in a way that's either going to be kind of subliminal or direct marketing, depending on who you're trying to get at. And we have tons of classes. There's videos on our YouTube channel, as well as a lot of tools in command that can help you make sure that you're using your social media both to tell the narrative that you're working, because guess what? Your people have no idea that when you do an open house, you're not getting paid. They have no idea that it's not your listing. They have no idea that you're not getting paid. So when you are posting, like if Gina is 2 open houses a weekend, 2 open houses a weekend, 2 open houses a weekend, people are going to go, holy crap, she's killing it. She's getting all these listings. They don't make any, and Gina might absolutely be doing that. And yet, you know, for some of you that are on here that might be going, you know, I don't have that many listings, or I haven't taken a listing yet. It's a wonderful way for your world to watch you in action with the commodity that you sell by standing in front of an open house.
Yeah, absolutely. So just keep in mind, guys, the language that you use in your social media advertising is the same like when you're thinking about door knocking. What's the response that you want to get? And that's what the questions, or that's how you should phrase your advertising. And then, so when we're talking about door knocking, you really do want to map it out. Identify which houses you're going to knock, how many, and then you want to know what you're going to say, because you're not just using that before the open house. Ideally, you would like to knock on those same doors post open house. So make sure that you're mapping that out. And then we also want to look and see, where are we going to be placing the signs? And you need to do this ahead of time. I would say the day before. You need to map out your sign placement, because you want to make sure that it's where people will see it, and that you have enough signs to direct somebody to the open house. And it's very key that your signs all look the same. So if you have like a Keller Williams open house sign, and then you have like a Home Depot open house sign, and it's 1, 2, and 3, you know, and I would be driving saying, oh, wait, that's not the same sign. It must be a different direction, and drive right past it. So all of the offices have plenty of open house signs for you to use. So make sure that you plan out where your signs are going to be and how many signs you put up. I highly recommend that in the front yard of the home that you're hosting the open house at, go ahead and put 3 open house signs right in front of it. Take that lesson from Jack Smith. I don't recommend this, but he puts out about 62 signs for every open house. He's even sent me a video of a customer walking into an open house saying, we could find your open house from space, right? Because that's how many signs. However, there are city regulations on signage, and those 62 open house signs were also picked up by the city of Treasure Island. So, but that hasn't stopped him, right? He just buys more and goes for it, which I love that tenacity. But yeah, just making sure that you have planned out where your open house signs are going to go and the direction. Number 1 key tip that learned this from Monica Crawford, who learned it from probably Stephanie Huffman, who learned it from somebody else. when you're putting an open house sign in somebody else's yard, be courteous enough to knock on their door and ask for permission. Yes. Do you know what that leads to, Gina?
Yes, I knock, and I've done this. And I was glad you said that, because I knock on a door and I'm like, hey, I'm having an open house down here. I'd love to have you come, but I wanted to ask, is it okay if I leave a sign here? First of all, my sign doesn't disappear. Okay. And second of all, when I'm done, I go back, I knock back on the door with a thank you card. And I'm like, hey, just thank you so much. I just want to, drop off a thank you card with my card in it. And you never know if that person's going to be like whatever. So, I mean, it's the one or two signs that I have, thank you cards that I write while I'm at the open house. Mm-hmm.
So I know that Monica Crawford has actually taken listings from that activity, knocked on the door, asked if she could put the open house sign in the yard. And they're like, oh, you're a realtor? We're thinking about selling our home. And then, so after the open house, she went back for a listing appointment. So make sure you're being courteous enough and asking for permission, and you have a listing appointment opportunity right there. So we've got our flyers, we got our social media marketing, we got our video, we've got our door knocking mapped out. We know where our sign placement is going to be. We got two more things that we need to get prepared. One is a comp wall and one is our open house kit. So Michael, talk to us about what is a comp wall?
Yeah, actually, and before we do that, I want to go back just for a moment. So with your door knocking, you need to, again, what is your intention when you're door knocking? So are you just knocking on the door to let them know about the house or to invite someone over, or is your intention to take listings? There was probably one of my favorite success stories around open houses is I took 4 listings from door knocking around my listings. So and this was in a neighborhood in Riverview. I didn't live anywhere near Riverview. I didn't want to be anywhere near Riverview. I took a listing from a sphere. I knocked on the 50 nearest doors and I used the same script every single time. So it's, hi there, nice to meet you. My name is Michael Reedy. I am actually doing an open house at our newest listing down the street. I was hired by your neighbor. This is something that we do for all of our clients is we knock on the 50 closest doors because often the neighbors know someone who loves the neighborhood or know someone who would love to move into the neighborhood. Either way, if you don't mind, please share this flyer with anybody that you know. First part, right, is what most people do, and then they stop the conversation. While I have you here, how long have you lived here? Do you like it here? Do you mind giving a recommendation for a future neighbor? Maybe your favorite restaurant or dry cleaners, house of worship, something that they would really find benefit from. And we've already had a lot of interest in this property, and with inventory being so low, I'm curious, at what price do you become a seller? And so asking a very specific question like that makes people go, I've never thought about it. And so you go, well, I'm already going to be here on Saturday from 12 to 3. I'd love to be able to run some numbers for you. Are you going to be home Saturday afternoon that I'd be able to drop those off for you? That way, just to kind of give you an idea of what your house would be worth if you were to sell in today's market. So you do that. I did that for one house, and then 2 doors down, they actually didn't answer the door when I had the flyer, but they took a picture of the flyer and they sent it to the seller. And then this was showing my seller that I was working, and they asked, how is your realtor? About a week later, I got their listing, knocked on 50 nearest doors, which included some, and then also had some new ones. And then the woman across the street said that she was moving to New York and she needed to list her house. So got that listing, knocked on the 50 nearest doors. And so now about 25 of these houses have now seen me work 3 weekends or 4 weekends in a row. And then that took the 4th listing. And so very, very quickly on one street, which is called Hidden River in Riverview, was just it was a cul-de-sac, or it was a big loop. You literally had to drive through my face on both sides of the street in a neighborhood that supposedly had someone who owned the farm for about 15 years prior to that point. The idea is, are you knocking on doors because you want buyers, or are you knocking on doors because you want sellers, or both? And does your language reflect both?
Well, and there's another key aspect to that, Michael, was the repetition. Right. So there's a saying in sales that only 2% of sales are made on the first contact. 80% of sales are made on the 5th plus contact. And I was listening to, God, what's his name? It doesn't even matter. He was talking about social media and the amount of information that we get, and that in the past, most people needed to see something 8 times before they acted on it. But with the amount of information that we're bombarded with on a day-to-day basis, that we actually have to see something 16 times before we act on it now.
Oh.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind, guys. So just a couple of, one of the most important things I heard out of that was the repetition. So he knocked on those 50 doors 4 times. It ended up 4 times. So those people know him, know his face, know that he's a realtor and that he's working the neighborhood. He also used a great script, which is one I hope you heard and I hope you wrote down. At what price would you become a seller? Because you can ask the question just like walking in any department store. Somebody's going to ask you, what can I help you with today? Oh, nothing. I'm just browsing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, how are you asking the question? So a comp wall, guys, and this is again pre-open house because you got to get it prepared. A comp wall is something else that we learned from Family Reunion, from listening to top agents from across the country share ideas. And what that is taking comparable listings, pending and sold properties from the area, and you literally create a comp wall. You can go to Office Depot and get one of those presentation boards and use that if you prefer. But they actually tape with painter's tape, not any other type of tape, so you don't pull the tape off the wall or the paint off the wall when you take it down. But the agent will tape 3 comparable listings on the wall, 3 comparable pendings on the wall, and 3 sold properties on the wall. What this does is it gives people who are walking through the house, they stop and look at this for an extended period of time. And that gives you another opportunity during the open house to have a conversation. So that is something that's key, is that you prepare your comp wall prior to the open house. You also want to make sure you have your open house kit prepared. Nowadays, our open house kit involves a COVID kit. So making sure you have your mask, your gloves, your hand sanitizer, but you also want your Febreze, your candles, zip ties. Gina, you have a different type of open house kit. What is it called?
Okay, well, this is all adults here, right? Because I call it my oh shit bag, literally, because sorry, but it's literally, it's a bag because it's one of those things you're like, oh my God, I forgot this, that, and whatever. And over the course of, this being year 3 now doing it, I've got a lot of things in there. It's seriously, as much as it sounds weird, toilet paper, because you could go to a vacant home and there's nothing there. Let's just be real, okay? Paper towels, Windex, a tape measure. Like, you would be really surprised how many times I've pulled out a full on tape measure, not one of those like little ones, but the big ones, because people want to measure, could their couch go somewhere? Could their TV go somewhere? I mean, and if they're starting to go, I can put the couch here, you got to go with that. Like, hey, wait, I got a measuring tape. I can show you. We can see if your king size bed fits in this bedroom, like, right? Why not? First aid kit. That's something, I mean, I never thought. I have a travel one because, it's important to have. It's little things like that you don't think of. And it's like, oh my gosh, a little dustpan and broom, because I've gone into places where, they just had some stuff around, and I'm sorry, but it's what you have to do. You're not just going out there putting out signs. Sometimes you have to do housekeeping.
Yeah,
you do.
I know a realtor that always has a leaf blower in the trunk of his car.
Oh, I never thought about that. That's probably one more thing I'll need a bigger car for.
Yeah,
but there's that.
Tape, scissors, pencils, pens,
Yep. Pencils, pens, notebook paper. Have like little pads of paper. You can get them from your title company. You can get them from your lenders. Those are not only just cute little giveaways, but they're, hey, if you're going to take notes, I've got a pen and paper here. Have the pen with your logo on it or whatever the deal is, so that they can keep it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely oops bag.
Clorox wipes, toilet paper, paper towel. Toilet paper is key. I've had that happen way too often. So if you guys are in here paying attention, what is something that you have in your open house kit that we did not mention that you find is important to make sure that you always have? Michael, did we hit all the main ones for you?
Yeah, I think so. You know, one of the things that's important also when we're talking about COVID, and this is kind of moving into day of, is we really want to eliminate as much touching as necessary. So we want to keep all of the closets open. We want to keep some of the cabinetry open. If it's the pantry, you know, the places where storage is going to be questioned, we want to have those open. We want to have all of the lights turned on. To your point about the toilet paper, I would always, I mean, so when I started in real estate, it was really heavy with REOs, right? So like when toilets were winterized and all that kind of stuff, is I always recommend that you just test the toilet if it can actually flush before you try to use, because if they turn the water off, you can't even go like find a bucket and try to do it the old fashioned. I mean, it's not going to go well, folks.
Well, that's except for showing houses too. Always.
That's the same thing for showing houses, absolutely. And so, you know, by preparing the comp wall and your open house kit is setting yourself up for success for day of. The other part about that comp wall, right, is also to make sure that you're showing comps that are highlighting the home, surprisingly enough. If you are in a home that's $100,000 overpriced and all of your comps are showing that it's overpriced, that may or may not go well for you, right? So the great things about statistics is you can use any numbers to tell the story that you want. And so just be mindful of some of the things that you're using. You know, if it's a home that in Shore Acres is priced at $400,000 and pretty much everything is either 360 or 790 and above, then we want to be able to tell the narrative as to why it's fitting in the middle, right? All of those things show up for sure. Rachel, then we've got day of.
Yeah,
the open house.
Day of. So the day of, we are going to get our open house signs out and balloons. Some people don't use balloons, they use the little windmills. Whatever you use, just making sure that you have allotted enough time to get those out. I recommend getting to the house early, getting the lights on, cooling the house down, spraying Febreze, getting your sign-in sheet out, getting your information sheets out, putting your comp wall up, making sure the toilets are flushed, the doors are open, all that good stuff. And then we want to talk about what else, Michael, as far as the day of prep that you have. Anything more there?
Well, so one of the main things is make sure that your mindset is correct, right? Like that we are not holding a house open. This is an open house. You are actively working and we're having conversations. Every time someone is coming into that house, we are having conversations and we're engaging with them. So oftentimes we say this, which is if you want to get better answers, you have to ask better questions. And so if you tell people, hi, how are you? Thanks so much for coming. Please take a look around. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Is open and there's no more engagement and conversation, which is very different, which is, hi, thank you so much for coming to our open house. We typically know that if someone's coming by, they're either looking to buy a home or sell a home. Which one are you? Is a very different conversation than let me know if you have any questions. So we're having that engagement. Some people do have people sign in at the very beginning. Some people will use a one-pager with lots of areas. I don't necessarily recommend this because people take social cues from other individuals. So if the person above them didn't fill out an email address, they're not going to fill out an email address. If someone didn't give a phone number, then they don't feel obligated to give a phone number. Instead, by having individual sign-in placards that have survey questions, that's a really great tool. Or there is the Open Home Pro. Open Home Pro is a free app that can be used on tablets. Some people like it, some people don't. Obviously, with COVID, I would probably move away from people touching a tablet over and over and over again. However, with your sign-in sheets, and I really love the one-pager placket, is people come through and you go, please take a look around. And then when you're done, if you don't mind, I'd love to have you fill out a sign-in sheet. It's going to be very helpful for our seller, and there's an opportunity to give feedback, which they're really looking for. So instead of it being that currency of you must sign in before you walk the house, it's instead saying, please go walk the house. And I'm setting the expectations for what's going to happen when you're done. When they're using an individual placard, I would also have 2 cups because of COVID. There is the sanitized pens, and then there are the dirty pens, right? That way, so when people are done with the pen, they're just watching that you have them put that in a cup that needs to be sanitized. It's going to make people feel safe. And quite frankly, I don't care what your opinion is about COVID or your level of sensitivity. When you're door knocking or when you're doing an open house, it's the golden rule is to treat others the way that you want to be treated. The platinum rule is to treat others the way that they want to be treated. And no one is going to be upset with you for being overly protective.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And another great way to do it is just get like 20 clipboards. You can have these in your open house kit. Maybe if you have a goal of 40 people come to the open house, you have 40 clipboards. You set a can of Lysol on the table with them. Each clipboard has the, it's more of a questionnaire, and you ask them to take it around the house with them. Fill it out, take it around, make comments, would love your feedback. Gina, now you have a technique that you use on your sign-in sheet. Why don't you share with us what that is?
Okay, so I don't do the individual placket. I mean, I like it. It's just not something I just do something a little bit different. So because people don't like to be the first, no one wants to be the first or on a lead thing. So what I've done is on my sign-in sheet, I literally have it. So the first person, I had someone in the office write a name, a fictitious name, okay, in black ink. And then the second, and all the way through, like how many months they want to buy, where they're looking, address, the whole 9 yards. Someone else in blue ink, in a different handwriting, did the same thing with another fictitious name. I made color copies. It literally will wind up, I think Kristen and I had this conversation when I did a video last time. She said her aunts, I believe, are on her open house sheets all the time. Well, mine is Sarah and Ryan, and they will always be at my open houses. Because naturally people don't want to be first, but they will subconsciously will write everything that they need to write as soon as they see someone else has already filled it out. So that to me has always worked. And again, it's not something I ask at the very beginning. Like Michael said, I don't hit them at the beginning with that at all. It's usually at the end. And it's usually when they're, we've walked around, talked about different things or whatever the deal is. Then I'm like, hey, by the way, I just want to thank you so much for coming into my open house today. I'm grateful for any feedback you've given to me. I'll pass it on to the seller. Since you took the time out of your extremely busy schedule, it's a beautiful Sunday. Would you mind just signing in here? I'd love to at least at minimum send you a thank you card for coming in today. Please, I would appreciate that. When you know that someone is going to give you a thank you card, I've never had anyone not fill out their information.
Yeah, and I love that, because what we're talking about is a model. The model is holding an open house as a lead generation tool. And then what we have are how people add creativity onto it. So my take of an open house is there's no way in hell I'm going to sit there for 3 hours on a Sunday and do all those hours of preparation and not have you sign in when you walk in. That's my take on it. My whole purpose here is to get you to sign in. And so I'll use something like the seller requests everyone who comes into their home to please sign in. So I'll ask them up front. But that, again, that's different behavioral styles in different ways. The outcome is the exact same, but I just wanted to share that so those people who are listening to the class understand you're going to tweak some of the things that we're talking about to fit who you are. One thing you should not tweak, though, is making sure you're very intentional with the result that you want to achieve and the way that you go about doing it. So if I go into an open house and I hold an open house on 3 hours on a Sunday and I went door knocking in the Florida heat beforehand and did all this other stuff, I want to get at least one buyer appointment and one listing appointment out of that open house. And when I go into that open house with that result in my mind, the language I use is going to be different. Right. I'm going to ask for the appointment during the open house. So at the beginning of this, I did a little teaser about the one agent who had 3 open houses over the weekend and ended up writing 7 offers for those 3 open houses. Do you want to know the script she used?
Yeah.
Is this a home you'd like to make an offer on?
Which is so different than going, do you have any questions? Okay, have a great day. Because people go, no. So it said, is this a home you want to make an offer on? Is going to pose one of two things. Either yes, actually, we'd love to, which we want to then make sure that you have copies of the contract readily available at the open house to be able to fill them out and have it ready.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, you do not have to say, well, let me go back to my office and put it in DocuSign and send it over. You can still put it on paper.
Right. So that's either going to be one, or number two is they're going to go, you know, we liked the house, but it wasn't exactly what we're looking for. We want to keep looking. And you go, okay, wonderful. Well, out of curiosity, has anybody taken the time to sit down with you to do a proper buyer's consultation so that you don't keep wasting your weekends at houses that don't match what you're looking for? Because I promise you something. If it's a couple, one of them loves the fact that they waste every single weekend looking at thousands of homes. The other one wants to put their head under the tire or do anything else except for be at that open house. So you will speak to someone when you go so that you don't keep wasting your weekends looking at houses that don't fit what you're looking for. Someone's going to be like, oh my God, let's do that. I promise you that it's going to get you somewhere. It's either that way or, okay, great. Are there any homes that you wanted to schedule a private tour for that maybe you can't get in because of open houses?
Yeah, so guys, just make sure you take that script away with you. Is this a home you'd like to make an offer on? We get so wrapped up in our own worlds, we forget that the consumer has no idea how to purchase a home. We expect them to ask us, yeah, I want to make an offer on this. But we have to ask them. It is our job. It's not their job.
Or worse, this is something, so if you're holding an open house for another agent and you say, okay, look around. If you have any questions, let me know. And then they walk around, they come back. You're like, do you have any questions? They say, nope. Okay, great. Have a wonderful day. And they leave the house going, what do we do now? They're sitting in their car going, you know, there's more people here. We really want to make an offer on this house. And so they call the listing agent on the sign in front of the yard, and no one communicates with you as the agent who held the open house. And you are not going to get compensated if nobody knows that they're there because of your open house, standing right in front of it and looking for assistance.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So just during the open house, we want to make sure we have a schedule and we scheduled time for sign placement and balloons. We're talking about how to engage the customer. We've had a lot of great scripts. One of my favorite is the one that Michael used, which actually came from Tenpenny, which is people come to open houses for one of two reasons. Either they're looking to buy a home or they want to sell their home. Which one are you? That's one of my favorite scripts. It's the 2-option close. We talked about what Gina does is she just builds rapport with them and then asks them before they leave and captures their contact information and making sure to ask, is this a home you'd like to make an offer on? I'm even thinking through this, if we had clipboards with the little individual sheets, you know, that could be the last question on the survey. Is this a home you'd like to make an offer on?
Yeah, and Michael asked a really great question, right? So what if they are already working with a realtor? So if you want better answers, ask better questions, please stop asking people if they're working with a realtor, because they figured out that if I tell you yes, you're going to leave me alone. In today's market, if someone is with you at an open house that they randomly stumbled upon, and they are not in private showings with an agent, they are probably not represented, because every house that they fall in love with goes under contract within 48 hours because they can't get into the 40 private showings that are happening. So instead of asking the question, are you working with an agent? You ask the question, have you signed an exclusive agreement with an agent? Now, here's the other thing. There's a million realtors out there that believe that everybody's loyal, and so therefore they don't need to get a buyer brokerage agreement. If a client doesn't have a buyer brokerage agreement, or a customer, that customer has the ability to be yours if you sit down with them and work with them with an exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. So, you know, when we ask the question, are you already working with a realtor? We're going to get an answer that's going to be like, I'm just looking, I'm browsing. As Rachel said, when you go into the store, we want to be really intentional with those questions. Another part of during the open house, right? You've got that comp wall as an opportunity for points of conversation. Other things that you can do is whether they're picture frames or they're like table tents, is you can put little facts throughout the house. So let's say that they're in one of the second bathrooms and you go, ask me how you can save $4,500 in closing costs on this home. Just leave that in a bathroom. That's your Keller mortgage script, right? Or if you're in the primary bedroom or maybe the primary bathroom, they just did some renovation, you can have some specs about what has actually been upgraded in the home, the age of the AC, the roof. We want to give them opportunities to either ask you questions or to do a follow-up from one of the things. Hey, yeah, no, we were walking, so talk to me about the $4,500. Now they're coming to you, currency exchange again. They're coming to you asking you questions as opposed to you asking them. We're going to be able to engage them and have a more voluntary response and giving up of information than there was before.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, we had an agent asking me for the Zoom link for the class that we're in, so I'm sorry about that.
And I hope that everybody, if you haven't already noticed, scripts are so important. You're hearing Rachel say scripts, you're hearing Gina say scripts, you're hearing me say scripts. These scripts are allowing you to ask a series of questions to get to the outcome that you want. It's going to build your level of confidence, and you're not going, oh my God, when they stop talking, what am I going to fill the space with? You can be very intentional about asking questions and be 100% focused on their answers to be able to write down and be a better service to them.
And so I just want to make sure that we answered Michael Warren's question. Michael, people will say, yes, I'm working with a realtor, but if you ask the name, oh, wonderful, who are you working with? They can't think of that person. They don't know their name. So Michael, Reedy's question is much more intentional of, have you signed an agreement with a realtor?
Now, to answer your question, if someone is working with an agent, they have an exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, typically what they will do is they will sign into the open house using their realtor's information, or they'll hand you their realtor's card, or they'll do something like that to let you know if they are interested to please follow up with that agent. On a compensation structure, so if it is someone else's listing, you're holding the open house, which means you get any of the leads that come into that open house, those are yours. But someone who makes an offer has a buyer's agent and there's a listing agent. You do not get compensated at all in that transaction, right? The opportunity for you doing the open house is to either potentially get someone under contract on that property, or to have leads to be able to help someone find a property in the future. I just want to answer that question in any way possible so that it's exhaustive on the possible responses.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we've talked about how to engage the customer. We've talked about sign-in sheets. We talked about the comp wall. I just got to say, I know some agents love Open House Pro. And Gina, I noticed on your sign-in sheet, you've got like little questions, but several blocks. If you're going to do sign-in Pro or even a sign-in sheet, you need to have multiples, because you need to have the expectation that you might have 5 or 6 people wanting to sign in at one time. If you've ever signed in with Open House Pro, it takes a little bit of time to actually get all of your information in there. You should have Clorox wipes to wipe it down with, etc. afterwards. Also, another great thing to do during the open house, if you ask the question, is this a home you'd like to make an offer on? It's not a right match for them. Well, let me go ahead and share my mobile app with you. So as you're driving around, you can see other properties in the neighborhood. This is the most up-to-date app with the multiple listing service. So you can share your mobile app with them, your KW mobile app. And then some agents like to have like an open house binder there that might have the property disclosure, neighborhood statistics, additional information, etc. So you guys can have that in there as well. Gina, anything else that you would add for during the open house?
Yeah, so if I'm talking to someone and we're having conversations back and forth, and the first thing, when they walk through the door, the first thing I say to them, I'm like, hey, welcome home, and they usually chuckle. I mean, and I do. Every single person gets a whoo, welcome home. And the reason I do that is because they're already primed and ready. They know that those people are going to I'm so sorry. Hey, so sorry. So what happens is they wind up getting, already, worked up, like, oh, someone's going to ask me for all my information and all this other stuff. So that turns into a problem. So by taking them off and coming from humor, I've kind of gotten them a little bit more like, oh, that's kind of funny. And I'm like, yeah. I said, don't laugh because it's happened to me 6 times. I said, I'm going to say this enough times, someone's going to actually say, yes, I'm at my house. So that's one thing. And then while I'm in there talking to people, the lifestyle profile checklist that I have from our group that we have, it's just a bunch of, questions. But while they're actually walking through the home, I can just have, conversations. So, you're in the Clearwater area. Do you live around here? And they'll say, well, yes, I live in Tarpon Springs. Oh my gosh, I love Tarpon Springs. It's got great, stuff or whatever the deal is. Then you're like, are you looking for a house in this particular area? And they'll say, yes or no. And so you just kind of keep asking them questions while you've got the checklist. You're actually filling this out so that when you're done at the very end, you can say, so what I hear you saying is you're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in the Clearwater area under about, $300,000, in a particular school area. Is that what you're looking for? They'll say, yes. Would you mind if I go ahead and make sure to get your email when we sign later on? Could I send you a couple of homes as soon as I get home tonight? I've never had anyone say no. They're happy to get it. I mean, the only time they would is if they're saying they're with someone, which I would have already assumed, I already asked that question. But so I'll do a lifestyle profile checklist, and it's kind of helpful when I'm in the middle of the, talking to someone.
Well, and then just remember that in the day and age of COVID, that you have more opportunity to have conversations because you don't want to let the masses of people all in at one time. You probably want to have somebody working with you to kind of monitor the number of people coming through the home. But you also want to be considerate that there might be people waiting outside. I would go into the open house with the idea of, I want to set up a consultation with them, like Michael talked about, so that they're not wasting their time just driving around looking at open houses every weekend. So, but again, those are different ways that different people can work it. So we're just presenting this information to you guys to be able to take what you need for your business. The most important thing I heard Gina say was what she talked about, her mindset. And you didn't say it, but when people walk in, she's enthusiastic and she's assuming the clothes. That's what this is about. How you do it might be different than how Gina does it or how I do it or how Michael does it, but she's enthusiastic and assuming the clothes. Just because I know we're going to run out of time, I want to just the post-open house aspect of it. So now we've got all of this information from the people that have come in. We want to make sure we add them to our database and tag appropriately. Guys, the tags are so essential. Tag them as open house. Every single weekend that you do an open house, you send that open house information to those people in your database with the open house tag. Gina, what do you do with the contacts? What's your step-by-step?
Well, so I'm at the open house. I'm getting ready to close. It's a vacant one because they're a lot easier to do. Obviously, you don't have to leave in a time frame. So before I leave, every single person that's on that list, they'll have already been contacted. Obviously, they've had contact with me, 1, in person. 2, I don't leave the open house until every single person has gotten a text from me. Hey, this is Regina from Keller Williams. Just wanted to say thank you so much for coming to my open house today. If there's anything that I can do, please feel free to give me a call. Here's a copy of my business card because it's always in the text. Boom. As soon as I get, so they've already had 2 touches with me and they're both organic. Okay.
Because I love that you've committed. I'm not leaving the open house until I text everybody that came through the open house. I love that because it is so often what we do is we say, I'm going to make sure and follow up with them first thing in the morning. Well, life happens, right? Or I'm going to go home right now and do XYZ. Life happens. So you've committed, and you guys can schedule that time. So if you're scheduled for an open house from 12 to 3, go ahead and schedule that follow-up time. Tell your family, I'm not going to be home until 4:15, right?
Well, it's not even that. You're right. You have to think about, like, sure, your life happens, but it's also the thing, you wait until tomorrow or you wait until Monday. And Regina's already texted them. She's already sent them a thank you card. She's already following up with them, right? Like she's got them in the car on Sunday going to look at a couple of properties because she emailed them 3 properties when she got home. And you were waiting until Monday and going, hi, just wanted to say thank you. And if you needed anything, they're like, nope, we're great. We're under contract. Regina was wonderful. And you're completely out of the deal. That's one of the big things. The other part is, one of the great aspects about Command is you can do a tag for anything. Dog lovers, popsicle lover. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can put anything and everything on there. You can do open houses as a broad category. I want to challenge you to be specific. So if they're in Kenwood, or if they're in Clearwater or Tarpon Springs, because now you have intentions on phone calls. If I did an open house in Kenwood 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to do another one this weekend, I'm going to go into my tags for all of the open house Kenwood section and go, hey, is this Michael? Hey, Michael, it's Michael Reedy. I just wanted to give you a call. You came to my open house a couple weeks ago that was in Kenwood. I know that it was on the little bit smaller side. I'm actually doing another open house in that exact same neighborhood. This property is about 300 square feet larger, and it has a beautiful backyard, which I knew was a concern for you and your dog. Would you like for me to send you the information about the open house? I'm coming from a place of contribution. Michael goes, yeah, that sounds interesting. Now he's much more inclined than just a blanket email that happens every single weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like I said, it's the talking to them while they're there. I don't leave. And if it is an occupied home, that's fine. Get your stuff, sit in your car. You can sit in there, but you have to text right then and there, because otherwise, like you said, life gets messy and it gets confusing. So you talk to them, you've texted them. As soon as I get home, I'm looking for anybody who I did a lifestyle thing. I'm instantaneously looking for other homes on an email and sending that out again with a, hey, thank you so much for coming. Just wanted to let you know I had a few minutes and I was looking online and I noticed that a couple of these homes might fit your parameters. Please let me know how I can better serve you. I'll talk to you soon. And then when I get into the office on Monday, so that's so you've got 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth one is the thank you card. So then again, dropping in your card, again, just coming from contribution. Thank you so much for coming. You've touched them literally in less than 48 to 72 hours 4 times. And it's very organic. It's nothing like you've been like crazy calling someone. And then you put them on your drip campaign and you call them and you get them on, your once a month, what is it done? I have a newsletter that I send.
Smart plan.
Yeah, exactly. So you get them on the drip and you start setting them up on that. And then next thing you know, you're starting to call them, like you said, at the open house. Hey, I'm at another open house. This one looked very familiar. But that's what you do. And it's easy instantaneously. You've gotten almost 5 touches in less than a week. And then you just follow back up the next week. Hey, I'm going to be at an open house over here. Don't know if this, it fits all of your parameters, but I'll let you know I'm going to be at an open house here. I'd love to see you again.
Yeah, I mean, open house is a great lead generation purpose for a phone call. So you just call all the people that you've met at the previous open houses. You can go back 6 months. Hey, I'm doing an open house in Kenwood this weekend. It's a great bungalow. I really think you should come by and see it. You might love it. Why don't you? I mean, it's a great reason to stay connected. So guys, I know it's 2:02 right now. Our post open house is, we're adding them to the database. I love Gina's commitment of texting them before she leaves the open house. So you're texting them, you're sending them a note card, you're sending them an email and a phone call, all within 72 hours of meeting them, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and then you get them on your thing and you start talking to them. The weird thing is, you just have to keep front in line. And I will tell you something, I just closed with an amazing people that I met in an open house. I met them last March of 2019. I just closed them in a brand new home in Plant City. I just kept in touch with them. It was a crawl, walk, run with them financially, and everything else. But I will tell you something, it was the best closing I've been to in a long time. But I never just left them hanging. And I met them at an open house almost 2 years ago.
I love that. And I hope everybody heard that. Like, guys,
don't give up.
Game, right? You have to keep following up. By the way, Gina, Yvette asked if you'd be able to share the organic lifestyle profile you use, also a short email with your text message after the open house. If you want to send that to myself or Michael, we can send that out. So that would be appreciated. What did you guys hear today? What did you learn? What are your takeaways? What are you going to implement at your next open house? We covered the pre-open house, the during the open house, and post-open house follow-up. You can also door knock those same doors and say, hey, I just want to let you know we had a great open house. We're actually under contract. We had more buyers than we could sell that one home to. Who do you know in the neighborhood that's thinking about selling? So you can also utilize door knocking scripts post open house.
Yeah.
I would really love to hear from you guys. What did you hear? What are you changing? What are you implementing? Have paper contracts ready on site? Absolutely, Trey. Always have a paper contract in your car, just like business cards, right? Always have it available to you. Anything else that you guys learned today? I need 2 more takeaways.
They're slowly typing, so we'll let them do that. While they're doing that, thank you, Regina, for joining us on this. We love having your take and the fact that you're still in the field and doing it. For the people who think that because of COVID, that open houses are ineffective, you're a true testament of the fact that this is a long game, right? And
Yes.
if you think that it is Saturday or Sunday open house, Monday contract, then, you know, best of luck. Sometimes that does happen. It's very, very rare. We know that about 3% of homes actually sell in the open house, which means that all of the other people that are coming through that open house are going to close in the future. It might just not be on that particular home.
Pause right there, Michael. You're pushing a button on me right there. And you guys are pushing a button on me in this chat room without showing me what you learned. So make sure you're typing. Thank you, Kelly. I had a lunch with the Pinellas Realtor Organization president, and he actually told me, he said only 1% of homes are sold at the open house. And I challenged him with, yeah, well, how often does a realtor ask, is this a home you'd like to make an offer on? Because we haven't been taught to do that. They don't teach that at 63-hour pre-licensing. They don't teach it at 45-hour post. And I'm going to challenge all of you guys to ask that question and share with us how many homes that you sell at the open house just by asking that question.
Oh, well, I can tell you, like, in the 2 years I've been doing it, I have sold 6 open houses at the open house. My very first one as a real estate agent was at my one of my open houses. Yep.
Love it. Thank you, Gina. All right, guys, thank you so much. I see your top comments in here thanking us. I hope you took some information away. I hope you wrote some notes, and I hope you implement these strategies in your next open house for success, and I hope you sell that open house too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Gina.